Well, here we are, guys. Welcome to the new year, and it's a brand new podcast that we're starting. And everybody knows Chris. Chris, what's up?
What's up, everybody?
Chris, you live in Pennsylvania,
I do.
and how long we know each other now? Like 5 years,
Oh, at
six?
least 5 years. Yeah, we
Okay.
met at Harrisburg.
Yep,
Yeah.
the Great American Outdoor Show.
Hmm.
We've hunted together, we've hung out, did food plots, and all this, everything basically
Everything.
over the course of those years, and we've had some crazy things happen and everything over with trespassing and
Oh,
different things like that. But excited to get this podcast going. I asked you to join in on this because you have experience in your area on public and private.
yes.
You plant food plots, and so we kind of both have the experience of some land management stuff, some food plots, and public land hunting and private land hunting.
Yes.
So the whole goal is I want to provide some value to the listeners. Obviously, that's the goal of this podcast.
Sure.
And for everybody listening, this podcast will be available on YouTube. You can watch it, live or the video version on YouTube, and then it'll be available on Apple, the iTunes, the Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the podcast platforms. This will be available for everybody to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna aim to do different topics and things. We're
Hmm.
gonna educate.
Yeah,
Uh, at some point, we might even, who knows, we might even pull some people in and interview them, and it's going to be exciting. I think there's going to be people. It'll reach some people that may not have you know seen us before, or hey, get the name out there.
absolutely. Yeah, and I've already thought about, I've already talked to Mike and stuff from Domain, and we're gonna get them guys on here in future episodes. And this will be
Yeah,
once a week, every week, uploaded on Sundays for you guys to listen to. And
on
so it'll
both
be
channels too.
yeah, both channels. Chris will be the video version will be on his YouTube channel and my YouTube channel, and then the audio will be available on all the podcast platforms.
Yeah, that's big. That's big. Spotify is a big thing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Apple's. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experience with Apple, but Spotify is a big thing.
Yeah, everybody's got a phone, and you can just
Yeah,
pop some earbuds in or something, and people can go about their day and listen to it.
right, right.
All right, so today's topic and podcast, I want to talk about our season so far. It's a new year. We're in 2023, and I want to talk about our experiences this year that we've had so far, and maybe some downfalls that we had, and some takeaways that we maybe some other people can learn from.
Okay.
So, where exactly in Pennsylvania? You don't have to say exactly, but where are you at
Yeah,
in Pennsylvania?
I'm in Jefferson County, Pennsylvania. I'm near a tourist town around the Cook Forest area.
Okay. And that's all it's all mountains there, right? Or you got some flat ground?
There's a lot of mountainous area. Um, there is there is some ag here, but all the
Mhm.
old farmers, they've all died off, and
Right.
nobody's really taken over. There's a lot of vacant farm area around.
Okay. Now how is your season how did you prepare for this coming, or I should say last bow season? From spring, summer to leading into opening day of archery season? Because your archery season starts in October.
Yes, yeah. I guess if you go back to the beginning of the year, why I did some frost seeding stuff,
Okay.
getting my food plots ready, and I amended everything I needed to do there, and put some things in as far as my plots go. That's how I started the season.
Hmm.
And then, oh, around June time, I believe it was, I had someone approach me with some scent, and they wanted me to kind of showcase their scent company, which we could talk some downfalls. But uh, anyhow, I went out and I started mock scrapes right around June time and got that all rolling.
Hmm.
And there was some pros and cons to that. we could talk about. Uh, but as I progressed into June and July, I started to really focus on getting prepped for fall at that point, and that's when I did some weed control and things that I needed to do, and then I
Hmm.
started planting the fall plots end of August, beginning of September.
Now you plant the same seed, right? You use domain seed.
I use domain exclusively.
Okay.
You and I both uh, are partnered up with that company. Um, so we believe in it. They hide nothing. They use, everything's on the label. They have clear packaging, and
Hmm.
not only you and I, but there's this company's taking off strong,
Yeah, they're in a
leaps
lot of retail stores now.
leaps and bounds.
Hmm.
And I was looking through the internet the other day, and they're in what's that magazine? Sportsman's Guide.
Sportsman's
They're
Guide. Yeah.
they're in Sportsman's Guide
Yep.
magazines, uh, Tractor Supply now,
Hmm.
Rural Kings, Home and Fleets.
Yep.
Just
Online, obviously, on their
oh,
on.
they're everywhere right now.
Yeah.
This company's exploding, and I'm sure you are, as I am, proud to be with them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mike and they're good people for sure.
Yeah, yeah, they treat us well, So
So what was your strategy come opening day of bow season?
okay,
Were you hunting public or private?
I went public because my strategy every year, I am not necessarily a trophy hunter.
Hmm.
Um, I have a family of four, so I try the first week to put a few doe in the freezer.
Hmm.
So my strategy was the first week that I actually hunted some of my own property, and I usually take a doe every year first day on my property. Well, that didn't pan out for me. It
Hmm.
didn't go as planned. So the first week though, I did end up with two doe on the ground, and then
Okay.
put
Yep.
them in the freezer, and
Hmm.
then it was buck time.
Yep.
I always try to get the doe out of the way, and I purposely saved one tag for rifle for doe because
Hmm.
I enjoy going out with the rifle and getting a doe. I really
Oh yeah.
do.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I try to get everything in archery normally, but this year's weather was not bad.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We could have got really nailed with bad weather like we had in the past, but the weather patterns were just real mild, and I thought, man, it would be nice to be out there with a rifle. So I did save that one doe tag. But yeah, I packed the two doe in first and then concentrated on the buck. Um, and that's going to be a whole nother video. We're going
Hmm.
to talk about the impact of the acorns
Yep.
on this year's hunt.
Yeah.
We can do
Now,
that.
um, what would you say for since you've had a lot of luck? That buck I think you killed back there, that was public land, right?
Yeah, this I gotta
Yeah.
gotta. This buck was public land,
Right.
and I
So
and I killed his sire.
relative. Yeah.
Yeah, his relative. Uh, 2 years later,
Yeah.
and that's a video also. But you
Yep.
can go in and look at that. But I killed one that almost identical to that one right
Yep.
there.
If
That
you
was
had
public.
Yep. If you had to give somebody a tip for public land to get to those bucks like that, especially in PA,
Oh,
what would you give them? What kind of tip?
okay. Here's my tip.
Yep. I,
If
s-
you are gonna hunt public land,
I see a light bulb.
oh man, it's coming. There's probably steam rolling out of here.
Yep.
If you're gonna hunt public land, you need to be willing to do extra and go further and beyond.
Yep.
I shoot I shoot these bigger bucks on public land. I never see anybody where I go.
Hmm.
I go to the gnarliest, nastiest, furthest away portion of the property that I'm hunting and get away from everybody. That would be the best tip I could give you. Um, Besides having a good backdrop, um, because these bucks like that don't get that big without being very smart and trained.
Right.
So I'm not saying I'm outsmarting them. I'm just in the right place at the right time, and you have to be in the right area
Well,
at the right time.
you also know they're there.
I
So
do because I run trail
yeah,
cameras. I should have said that earlier too. I
yeah,
ran my trail cameras
right.
all year.
And I always say you can't shoot what's not there. So
Correct.
if people are hunting the same place over and over and they're not having success or not seeing bigger deer, well, you got to go
Yeah.
someplace else.
And one of the things I did this year is I as I said before, I incorporated those mock scrapes this year.
Hmm.
And my experience of putting them out this year, I mean, let's talk you were saying about the pros and cons. Let's talk a little bit about that, open that can of worms. The scrapes, the the mock scrapes, when I opened them up the first week, they were on fire.
Right.
I mean, I had deer walking right through them, but it's curiosity.
Yeah. And this was in July and August, right?
June and July.
June and July.
June and July, believe it or not,
So
they were already hitting them.
you
Not
put
doing,
these, yeah,
you know,
you put,
not working dirt, not
right.
playing with the limbs, just coming in and investigating, looking around, sniffing the dirt, sniffing the licking branch,
Yep.
just checking it out
Yeah.
because they're
So
curious.
you did that. You put these scrapes out. So you knew bigger bucks are in this area.
Yes,
You knew that.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I
So
knew that because of the trail
right.
camera intel.
Right. Yeah.
So that's another thing for advice. I would get as many trail cameras as you can afford,
Hmm.
and I can't run the cellular ones. I know everybody's thinking, "Oh, it must be nice. He's got all these cameras." And I, Dave, you know where I'm at, and I've showed you the hillsides that I hunted.
Yep.
I do not have cellular service there.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, I live in that armpit of the world. I don't get the service, so I can't
Well,
even run those cellulars. So
I've stayed at your camp many times, and it's very limited on service.
frustrating, wasn't it? I mean, we dropped. You could drop a phone call in my
Hmm.
at my place, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, I run trail cameras all year also. Now I sometimes pull them out February and March when
Yeah.
nothing's really happening and the
Right.
batteries are just going to die from the cold anyhow.
Right.
And if they've shed their antlers, there's nothing to look at.
Hmm.
So I start running them, you know, March, April, and then
Kind
the
of.
mock scrapes June, July.
Right.
And anyhow, what I was getting to was those mock scrapes. I started them early. They started hitting them and curiosity, and then they went dry. I
Hmm.
mean, for a month and a half probably. I wasn't getting pictures at all. Just an occasional deer would walk through the camera. You know, every now and again I caught a bear
Right.
walking through, and that has
Yep.
nothing to do with a scrape. They were just walking through.
Right.
So yeah, those are my advices.
That's great.
Go
Well,
deep, go
yep.
deep, go steep, go thick,
Yep.
cross a
Get
creek.
get away from
Whatever you
other
got to
people.
do to get away. Yep, get away. Run some cameras. Put the odds in your favor. Maybe some scrapes or something.
Yeah.
Try
And
it.
you're tagged out.
I got tagged out.
Yeah.
Yep, yep,
That's great.
yep. So it works out sometimes.
Yeah. Definitely.
Doesn't always work, but you know.
Yeah.
What was your prep like this year? I know you hunted some different places. You went
Yeah.
what, Eastern Shore of Maryland?
Yeah. So I got this year. Or 2022. I really focused on public land. I spent a lot of time kind of hunting or scouting where I used to hunt when I was a kid, and I drove over to over the bridge over to Eastern Shore and scouted a bunch of properties. And I really wanted to get back into public land hunting, so I spent basically June, July, and August scouting some public land. And the place that I hunted at, there used to be really good bucks there when I was younger, and it kind of drifted off a little bit over the years. But I wanted to give it another shot, and I got back in there, and man, I hunted opening day of archery season back in this. It was an area that had a swamp kind of, and it was backed by some thick cover, and there were some oaks dropping some acorns. And I got in there nice and early opening day because our season here starts. September 8th each year.
I'm jealous.
Right. So you have roughly 15 days or so in order to shoot or for a chance to shoot velvet buck. So I got back in there opening day, and man, I was in there about till about 7:30, and I saw a buck. I heard a buck behind me, or heard deer behind me. I turned around and I saw it was a velvet buck, but it was kind of behind a tree and then went into this swamp, into these cattails, and I couldn't get a good look at it to see how big it was. So I never saw it leave this swamp. I didn't know if it was bedded down, if it left or what. So I just waited it out. I stayed still, and sure enough, like 2 hours later, it come walking. I heard it get up. It came walking out of this swamp, and man, I shot it with my bow. My first velvet buck ever.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
neat.
yeah, only ran like 60, 70 yards.
Yeah,
Got it. And it was
we don't get that opportunity here in PA for the velvet bucks.
right. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. It was really unique. I'll post a picture of it on YouTube here, so people watching YouTube can see it. But it was a really good buck.
It
Um,
was a good buck.
leading back into the springtime, I actually got a new hunting property this year, and I put a little bit of time into there. Me and Zach, we planted some food plots, the main in there. We used overhaul because we were actually able to, essentially rent or lease a piece of the ag areas from the farmer so we could plant these food plots. And we did some soil samples in there, and they were okay. So we tuned that up, and then we planted overhaul, got the soil going, and we used that to kind of just build it up leading into the fall. And we did some very minimal work there. And once we planted our fall food plots, I stayed out of there, and we gave it a good shot early season, and we seen deer, but we just didn't see anything decent worth shooting. And we had a lot of bucks in there in the summertime,
Well, you had
and
some issues with neighbors too, right?
we did again. We did have some issues. It seems to be a trend on my end,
Might have
but
affected some of your deer flow.
yeah, it took up it wasted a couple weeks of my time because I had to, I was with the police, and we were making phone calls back and forth to the neighbors trying to figure out like what the heck like what was going
Right.
on in this area. So we got that under control, and then Zach really gave it, you know, a, a a lot of hunt time in there, and he actually was able to shoot a buck in archery, and that was during the rut.
Yeah.
And then basically early season, I was supposed to be there as well, and I came down with the C word. I'm not going to say it. We we might get banned or something, but I came down with that, so that knocked me down for about
Rona.
5. Yeah, so that knocked me down for about 5 days, and then hey, we were talking about rifle hunting, enjoying rifle hunting, and I
Yeah.
got out there opening day of rifle, and I sat on this opening, looking down and looking down this ridge, and we had this trail that we kind of made out in front of us, and man, it was that woods lit up all morning. I seen probably 10 deer, like 3 or 4 different bucks, and we had one specific buck that me and Zach were trying to shoot,
Yeah.
and it was a buck we just kind of named 210, but he came walking by. Couldn't ask for a better situation, but he came walking right
Yeah.
out in front of me, 20 yards, shot him with the 243, and he ran about 50, 60 yards and got him.
That's crazy because he was a nice deer and there was some neighboring property there, and it wasn't like he was driven to you or anything. He was just out cruising.
Yeah, we made these habitat features, with this travel corridor and stuff. We
Yeah.
had the food. We weren't pressuring it. He was in the area.
Right.
So basically it was just a matter of time before he used, our features that we made to
I
give us an opportunity.
I had a similar instance with the buck that I shot. Not quite
Mhm.
the same, but speaking of features, in the spring, well, it started last fall, and through the spring, we had a neighbor down here below my house started timbering out some property,
Mhm.
and they made a real mess. of course, but I just looked at from a positive sense that they supplied my local deer herd with all kind of food, all the
Absolutely.
tops and stuff, all that browse. The deer were just they were just flocking in there and eating.
Mhm.
And not only that, but it created bedding.
Yes.
So with me having property right butted up against there, it acted almost like a corridor
Mhm.
for the deer to come out of their bedding, and they would come into my kill plot and stop for a bite and then continue on up to the destination plot
Yep.
that I have there. And
Mhm.
the deer were just one by one filing through, you know. And actually, the night before I shot the backyard bully buck, as I called him, because he had forced all the other bucks out of the area fighting with them and trying to compete for the does.
Mhm.
I almost shot him the night before, but it was just a little bit too dark to pick up on camera. So that was really, really hard not to fling an arrow at him because he was in my mock scrape at 23 yards, and I could see him through the peep. I even had a little light aperture on my pins.
Yep.
I had it on, and I was full draw, and I let down, and I talked myself out of it, and I thought,
Mhm.
"Am I going to regret this?" Well, the very next night, he came through, and I had my mindset. If he wasn't one of the big bucks like this guy,
Mhm.
you know, but he was a respectable buck for my area, and that was the next to the last week of archery, and that last week of archery, I knew we was having some nasty weather coming in, and
Yep.
probably wasn't going to be able to hunt.
Yeah.
So I just made my mind up. If this dude came in, this 10 point that was bullying all my local herd, I figured I was going to shoot him. And half hour before dark, he showed up, walked right underneath me, and I let him walk past me. He was headed for the mock scrape again, and I let him get I let him get out there about 17, 18 yards, and I give it to him.
Now, where you're hunting at, you're talking about your house here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have
that's
some
the,
private land.
yeah, that portion was my
Yep.
property.
That
Yes,
you live directly on. Plus, you have a little bit of extra private land that you can hunt on not far from there.
yes.
And basically, essentially, you're hunting like park deer.
These deer
It's all a
are
bunch of camps and
camps.
high
Yep,
pressure
very
situation.
suburban like.
Yeah, high pressure situation.
Yep. Which has nothing to do with the name city sticker, but but urban assassination is what I call it.
Yep.
Y- you know, I adapted because, like I said, as we can use that as
Yeah.
a topic later, the
Yeah.
acorn crop problem we had this year
Mhm.
as a nation, I think, because of last year's freeze.
Right.
Uh, the acorn crop was horrible where we're at, and I had to adapt, and all the deer were ending up in people's fields and
Mhm.
their yards and food plots and things. I was going out into the big woods where I shot this bear and that buck. I was getting blanked, literally blanked. I was going out for days and not even seeing a deer. And on my drive home, they're in everybody's yard eating.
Right.
And I thought, man, this is ridiculous. You know, I was seeing big bucks in people's yards eating
Mhm.
grass. And I thought, I've got to do something different. I have to adapt to this.
Yeah.
And being that I lived from in the city all those years, uh, I hunted the same type of suburban deer, you know.
Yeah. Well,
So I,
in your area where you're hunting, where you're talking about, it's a lot of big wood settings.
yeah,
Closed canopy. There's not much. I mean, there is food there, but having an acorn crop is definitely extra food, beneficial in that type
yeah,
of situation. Because, like
yeah.
you said, you're not really in an ag area.
No, I am not because all the farmers have died and moved on,
Right.
and we've got one guy that's pretty much sucks up all the extra land and he
Yep.
no tills everything.
Mhm.
So my destination plots there on that detached property that you were talking about near my home
Mhm.
that I hunt and plant all those plots in. Uh, they were flocking in there deep,
Mhm.
stacking up. But for some reason, um, they like the seclusion of coming around the houses and the camps.
Oh, you're used to it.
Yeah, they're just so used to that area, and they bed in a lot of these woods and things. I have a guy below me that has 50 acres. A guy beside me has 15, and the lady that did the timbering down here next to me, I don't know exactly how much she owns. I think it's around 30.
Mhm.
So altogether, I've got you know 90 acres or something of woods below me that I'm allowed to cross over and hunt. I have permission to do that, but I don't need to.
Mhm.
I parked my rear end down here on my own property and I have a kill plot planted, and all those deer would filter up through there every night, hit the kill plot, and then go on out to the destination plots. Kind of like a buffer zone built in.
Right. Exactly.
I would stop them for a bite to eat, look them over. If I didn't want to shoot them, they just went on up,
Mhm.
you know. But Bully Buck didn't make it, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. Have you had any deer meat yet from them?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we've had some.
I've been
Yeah.
tearing up some deer meat lately.
Oh, yeah. I've been
Not
even digging into last year's bear. I had a little bit left over,
Mhm.
and I got a young bear, and that's been really tasty too. Yeah, we've been hitting it.
Yeah. Well, I got and next week here, my all my consulting stuff is starting, so I'm gonna be all over the place. And then sometime the end of January, early February, I'm gonna actually do some work on my property. And I want some more cuttings to do, and we'll get into all that once we get closer to that. And I got some work, I'm gonna do on those properties, and all my consulting's going on. So I'm pretty excited. What do you have going on? Anything
Right.
outdoors?
Outdoors wise, if we get some more mild weather like we've been having, we get a storm and then it gets mild. I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm gonna wait till after Flintlock's over
Yep.
because that'll last till the end of January here in PA.
Hmm.
So I'm probably just going to hit the Harrisburg show, hit some shows and stuff, come February, and then
Hmm.
wait till March. I'll probably start hitting it and start frost seeding there towards the end of
Scouting,
March.
scouting,
Yep.
frost seeding, and kind of gearing up.
Yep. Get all my trail cameras out, cleaned up,
Yep.
getting them ready to roll. Uh, I don't know. I I'm probably won't put the mock scrapes out so early this year
Hmm.
just because I wasn't too turned on with what all I was getting,
Right.
spending all that time checking cameras and putting scent out and stuff, and nothing was really happening,
Right.
you know. But once the end of September hit, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it just broke loose, and I was going nuts. I was checking cameras every couple of days,
Yeah. I
keeping
bet.
tabs, keeping tabs on all the deer, making sure who was coming out where, and you know,
Yep. Well, those mock scrapes are, like I said, they're a great inventory, and it'll at least show you what's in the area, so you have
yeah,
a mental note of it, like, hey, there is decent deer here that I have a possible chance at. At least you know they're
yes,
there.
yes. Yep. Got to run enough cameras to know.
Yeah, definitely
But
got to find them.
if you can if you can set up on something, they're going to come through every couple days or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to hunt stands a couple nights in a row per se, but if I can get the right wind and things, why I try to bounce around
Hmm.
on my public land there, and
Right.
you know because where I hunt at, it's basically about 100-acre patch there,
Hmm.
and I try to put 3 stands in,
Yeah.
and so I had 3 cameras on that property, and some of those deer cross over to other cameras, and it's possible in 100 acres, but, yeah, like you said, I know they're there.
Hmm.
My chances are good, so I set up, but like I said, come October when the acorns weren't there, I had to change tactics. I had to bail on those mountain deer and come to the
Yeah.
suburban night deer. You
Right.
know,
Well, that's what it's
that's
about. You got
that's
to
part
adapt.
of you gotta adapt. You have to
Yeah.
figure out what's working.
Yeah.
You know,
Figure out where they're at, whether it's a food source changing, weather condition, whatever it is, you got to adapt to it.
as far as I know, none of the big ones got killed. So next year they're just going to be bigger, waiting on me.
Got to find them.
Hopefully, the acorns are there waiting on me too.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, my property that I hunt, my new property again has zero oaks.
Oh man,
So, but it's in a ag area. There's so much
yeah, you've
food. It's crazy.
you've got that going for you. Yeah.
I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of corn and thousands of acres of corn and soybeans.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. With the crazy prices of things right now, I'm not getting any younger.
You're old,
I know. Good thing I shaved, or I'd be all gray. I'd look like
right?
Santa.
I got gray going on.
But yeah, I, I'm transitioning a lot of stuff over into perennial clovers.
Hmm.
So I am going to be doing a lot of frost seeding in the
Yeah,
spring,
right.
and I'm going to let the clover do the work for me.
Hmm.
You know, I'm going to reduce tillage. Not that I'm a no-till guy, but I'm going to reduce tillage. I'm not going to plow this all up every year and
Hmm.
replant it in something different, because that's what I'd been doing to showcase different seeds and different varieties of seeds and things for domain. I'd pick a different seed every year and plant different patches and then show you the results. And I'm not going to be able to keep up with that, going forward. So I'm just going to use that particular plantings in like my kill areas,
You're
just like
you're
just
you're old, washed up,
yeah. Well, we'll see about that, but yeah, I'm gonna right in front of my stand. That's where I'm gonna plant the goods,
right?
and then I'm gonna have you know clovers and alfalfas and chicories and things like that um, off to the sides,
Hmm.
so that there's still plenty of food. But I don't think I have a shortage of food in my area, particularly because of the the field that I plant at. People, if anybody follows the channel, they would know that I did that series pasture to plot, and you've helped me on that in the
Hmm.
past.
Yeah,
We've turned a horse pasture into my destination plots. Well, there's 20 acres there of field.
right.
Well, I only plant 2 acres of it, so there's 18 acres of just
There's all kinds of,
grasses and
yeah,
forbs and
clovers and
clovers and stuff in there. And I mow portions of it so the clover just bounces,
right.
you know, and I leave some of it stand. It grows wild and it makes bedding and cover.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, some of these deer lay in the middle of that field all day long. And then a half hour before dark, they stand up and walk right at me and come into the plot in front of
Yep.
me.
They know where the food is.
Yeah. So, I mean, they don't have to go far. There's nothing, the field's all fenced in.
Hmm.
It's an old farm field. And they know they can just lay there and feed when they want.
Yeah,
And it's attracted turkeys back to my area. I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm real turned on about that, and so are a lot of the neighbors.
I bet you should
They're
have some
like,
good.
"Dude, you're planting all this stuff, and we got turkeys."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Yeah, you can thank me later."
yeah. Their turkeys are the same as deer. They go where the food is.
Yeah, so we're excited about that.
Yeah. So, um, so we're gonna wrap this up. This is the first episode, guys. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check us out on both channels, YouTube channels, and this will be available on every podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everything you can think of. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be back here next week for another
Yep.
episode. You got anything else?
Man, we'll see you next week, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, I should say.
Yeah,
Uh, we'll we'll try to keep it real, no BS, and
yeah. Then we'll
you could
update stuff
even
each week.
hey, different subjects each week. You could even have people email in and
Yeah,
a topic they might want to hear.
yeah. You can guys leave a comment, anything you want us to talk
Yep,
about, and
that would be interesting.
Yep, we'll kind of keep it as the season goes on what we're doing and
Yep.
and all that stuff. So